spend your time in positivity.
And we're back in the studio with my lovely guest, Natale John. Now we go so way back, and this is one tough woman that, I mean, when we first met, it's like you gotta earn respect, and that's not even enough. You have to even go even way beyond before she feels even comfortable just understanding that. But that's good. That means that you are a penchant for quality, for trust, for everything that's successful, and that's why you have reached where you have reached so far. My little promos talk about so many things. I'm like, my goodness, is there anything else? But thank you for being here. I always start by asking what is good, and then we can take it from there. So what's good?
Life. You're alive. So that's good.
That's good?
Yes.
Okay. So I actually wanted you to come on board since last year.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, man, I've always had you on my list, and it just never happened. And I said, you know what? We're going to make it happen this year. And so who is Natale John? The person, not the business mogul. This is a very important question because it's good to humanize zealots like yourself. People see everything, and I want them to know who you are, the person. Who is Natale John?
Natale John. Well, good night to your listeners, and thanks for having me here, E. Excited for you when you told me you're having your own radio show. I was very excited for you, so congrats.
Oh, thank you.
Who is Natale John? Natale John is just a girl. The daughter of Ma John and Nat. A girl who grew up in St Lucia and who saw entrepreneurial parents and knew the value of what's working hard, and a very tough mother who drilled into her the value of working hard to get wherever you want to be. Being the last of 6 girls, and my last sister being 11 years older than me.
So you're the last?
I'm the last. I'm the baby.
Whoa.
So yeah, that's how I see me. I don't see me as all the things that you said earlier. I just see me as a regular girl.
Well, you're a regular girl with a penchant for success. Add that. And don't be bashful about it. Own it. You were born in St. Lucia?
Yeah, I was born in St. Lucia to 2 St. Lucian parents, both entrepreneurs. So I never saw a household with an 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 parents. My mom had one of the first boutiques in St. Lucia, and then we had a restaurant. And then she did like sweets and stuff, wholesaling. And then my dad was one of the first furniture manufacturers in St. Lucia. And he had this big factory. He had been in the UK and then had come home and then opened up a factory. He also had a small hotel property. Then he did real estate. So that's...
You didn't have a choice but to be
what I know.
So let me ask this question then. So what was it like growing up there? And had you grown up in St. Kitts, do you think you would have been different, or what do you think that difference would have made? Like, what is it about St. Lucia that's peculiar that made you into who you are, aside from your parents' influence?
Oh boy. I think one of the things that I would say growing up in St. Lucia is that the community, your neighbors were your family, and I truly love that about St. Lucia. I think sometimes I miss that being here in St. Kitts, being here for 21 years.
Wow.
And it still doesn't feel the same, even if you're there for that long. But your neighbors are actually your family. So like now in St. Lucia, my mom is like 84. With COVID and all what's happening, I mean, I'm scared to death. And I'm like, you should really come up here and be with me and stuff. But at the same time, I know she's really happy at home, and just the neighborhood. The 2 neighbors across the street, they literally like family. And I know that having my mom there and knowing they are there, it's almost as if I am there. So I really like that community-based living in St Lucia. What would be different if I had grown up in St Kitts? I think I don't think if that's really a fair statement, because I think I am who I am because of my parents.
Okay, that's fair.
You know, especially who I am today. I think a lot of it is based on my mom.
Okay, that's fair.
But I do love living in St Kitts. St Kitts. One of the things that I love about St Kitts is the whole support of your own, and I think St Kitts has also come a long way of accepting non-Kittitians if you're not born here. So I still have created really lasting relationships, really good relationships here. So I really like that about being in St. Kitts. I remember when I just moved here, going to maybe like the second or third music festival, coming from St. Lucia, where it's a little of the reverse. You really have to earn your stripes first in St. Lucia before you're promoted. And I remember going to music festival and having local persons who at the time I thought, are they that good for them to put them up on center stage? And so I've come to appreciate that fact about St. Kitts, that we truly support and lift up our own. And I think that's such a brilliant thing to do. So I love that.
Nice. So are you the sibling everyone just somehow feels is the boss?
Yes.
So, you know there's a cartoon called Boss Baby. So you're the boss baby.
Yes.
So were you so now that I know that your parents are entrepreneurs, were you hustling when you were little too?
Oh yeah, I did.
Okay.
I
what
think-
was your main hustle? Like candy or
Oh yeah, so I actually grew up. So my nephew's here with me, Naeem, but we grew up like brother and sister. He's 4 years younger than me, but I bossed him a lot as
Right.
as a kid.
Okay.
So my mom had a boutique, and so outside during the summer, she'd put out a tray and sell candy. So we'd have to man the tray and sell and stuff. And I think as I grew older, I wanted to earn my own money. So I remember that story really well. She used to make donuts. And I said, Mom, on a Saturday, can I earn the donut tray? I would do the dough and everything, but I couldn't really fry because I used to be afraid of the hot oil.
Okay.
Until there's this little old lady who was the landlord for where we rented our store. So I'd go down early in the morning. She would help me to light the coal pot because you couldn't put a stove out on the street. So I'd put a little coal pot. She would help me to fry the donuts. I'd fry them, put them outside, and then I'd be hungry, right? And then I'd go back to that same old lady and I'd say, Miss Olive, my mom hasn't come down as yet, but is it okay if you could loan me $1? And she'd be like, yeah, for what? I said, to buy a donut. And she said, but Natalie, the donuts are yours. How you mean you want to lend $1? And I'm like, no, it's the business's money, Miss Olive.
Whoa. That cider you started so early?
Very early.
Wow. That
Very
is
early. Yeah,
that early?
that early. Yeah.
Na- if those who know Natalie know, right? They know. I actually got email from one of your staff this week, eh?
Oh,
Just so
okay.
you know, and we're gonna talk about that.
All right.
We're gonna talk about that. Adia, hold on. Adia, what's up, baby? You want someone to play with you?
Okay. So
As
I'm
soon as the
gonna
show is
play.
done, we're gonna play together. That's why I brought everything for you. Okay? Thank you.
All right.
So, wow. Okay.
So it's in my blood, and I say, and you know, the thing about it now is that now that I have been successful at different enterprises, I am thankful. But while growing up, I was really not thankful to my mother. I just thought my mother was like harsh and hard, and when all my friends were going out and having good time, I had to like go and man the shop on a Saturday and so forth. But I truly appreciate it because I think it has made me who I am.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, if you're listening and you have whatever it is you have, whether it be a small or medium business, a lot of times parents want their children to be different from what they are. But I love entrepreneurship and I push entrepreneurship. And I say, if you have a small business, encourage your kids to see what you're doing. Let them learn from what it is you're doing, because we don't see that too much within our communities. And I think that is so valuable.
Man, I was like, I used to write books, and sell them.
Yeah.
So, if your friends were to describe you in primary school and secondary school, what are we likely to hear? Wait. Let's twist it a little bit. Somebody who has not seen you since secondary school happens to get to see who you are now and what you're up to now. What would they be most surprised about? And what would they be least likely to be surprised about?
Oh boy. What would they be most surprised about?
Nothing. What, Natalie was just hustling then. And Natalie was like, oh yeah, she was destined to be this person.
Yeah, I think so. I think most of my friends would say that they're not surprised, because that's just who I was at such an early age. Or they will tell you, even if I were probably the youngest in the group, I was always years ahead of them. And I think that came from
being a boss baby.
Correct. Having sisters older than me.
I love it. So we just know time machine comes. Oh, that's Natale John. Even if they just don't even know what you like. No, that's Natale John. The one who, let's find the Lucian who is in St Kitts who's achieving more than everybody else. That's Natale John.
No, you just tried.
You're not just trying. You're doing. You're doing. How? Me ain't even gonna get there yet. Let me just keep talking. Let me just keep talking.
I should have really asked you, what are you gonna ask me today, E?
No. Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Okay.
I just want people to know, Natalie, hear the stories that they don't even know about. Okay?
Okay.
So, in 1992, see, I'm going to tell you, in 1992, you found yourself in Canada, St. Mary's University. What was your experience like then? Same thing as in secondary school, you were still a boss? Or you started to now boot up on people who were now a lot more closer to you, that kind of, iron sharpening iron? Was that your experience in college?
No.
Or you're just sharpening everybody else?
I think in college I was still Natalie, because college, being in Canada for the first time outside the supervision of my parents, my mom, but still knowing that I had a responsibility. I had to make sure that I couldn't do anything foolish. University years, people normally say, oh, they go crazy and stuff.
Yeah.
I couldn't go crazy because the type of parents I had. No, I still had to go down the line and rules-based to a certain extent. But entrepreneurship came out at university.
That's what I want to hear, actually.
At university, even if my dad actually, knock on wood, thank him for that, may he so rest in peace, sent me to university, and I think that was one of the things that helped me really well, because I didn't have a student loan when I left university.
Wow.
Paid school for me, and I'm always grateful for that.
Nice.
But even that, I'm still very entrepreneurial. I remember there's this friend of ours from Dominica. The first time he found pigtail in Canada, and then we were in Halifax. And if you know Halifax, you're not getting a lot of West Indian stuff. It was probably about close to 11 o'clock. Wayne came knocking on our dorm room, saying, Majon, guess what I find? Guess what I find down the street in Gottingen? I find pigtail. And I'm like, really, Wayne? Why you find that? Because, you just think of all the things you could have had when you were home.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh gosh, I have some red beans there. Let's go and make a bouillon right after 11. We didn't go to sleep until after 4 because we had no pressure cooker.
Oh.
We stayed up and we cooked and stuff. So university was fun. Then I learned to make dal puri. So I made dal puri, and on Saturdays and Sundays, I'd go sell dal puri. I had a delivery service. I would use the university's campus vehicle, which would drive you around
What?
between a certain
Hustle! Hustle!
radius.
Hustle!
So
This in your blood.
It's in my blood.
I knew there had to be a story from there. That's all we're doing here. We're just getting these stories out. We're just getting these stories out. But there are going to be many people who could relate to this, who see where you are now and don't understand this didn't happen by accident.
No.
There were humble beginnings.
And there are lots of failures as well.
Failure is an option.
Lots of failures. But the nice thing about failure is that you get to try it again and you get to do the things that you should not have done because you failed. So you now get to do them differently.
Hear that? So after college, what brought you to St. Kitts?
After college, I went back home.
Oh, you went back home?
Yeah, I went back to St Lucia. I worked with the government of St Lucia, I think, for about 2.5 years, maybe. And then, of course, you're young and you're in a relationship. So a broken heart actually sent me to St. Kitts, and that's how I came to St. Kitts back in, I came to St. Kitts in 1999.
99?
Yeah, 99. I came to St. Kitts. I did the interview with the Central Bank in 1998. And then I moved to St. Kitts February 1999.
Wow.
Only for 3 years.
You came here just for 3 years?
Yeah, I said 3 years. When I came to St. Kitts and looking at St. Lucia, I felt, oh my God, the place is so small. And think of St. Kitts with no hotels, no Marriott, no anything of that nature, no busy strip and stuff. And coming from St. Lucia, where our tourism product was a lot more developed at the time, to keep ourselves, I would say, sane. We used to have like lots of little house parties or big beach nicks and stuff like that. But it was like, oh no, I'm going back home. 3 years, 5 years most. I'm gonna just take the experience at Central Bank and then go back home. And 21 years later.
Right. I'm actually going to dig into that Central Bank experience because you were with the whole stock exchange thing.
Right.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
So,
I was the first employee of the stock exchange, the ECSE, actually.
Actually, one of the first interviews I had was with, I think his name was Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan.
Yeah, he interviewed me, I think, in 2005. That's just shortly after you left.
Right.
He was telling me about this whole ECSE thing and how it's just kind of getting started, and it intrigued me, and I want to actually know now, like, what's your take on that now? Like, are people making money on the ECSE, or I don't know, like, what is it? You started something, you've laid a foundation, and is it like, are people trading in this region?
I think the volumes are pretty low.
Okay.
And I think one of the things that we saw when we started doing like the road shows to establish the stock exchange was we needed a lot more educational sessions, just explaining to people what the stock exchange is, the value it could bring, and understanding investing on a whole. And I still feel to date that is still very necessary. Because while you have stocks markets and you have the New York stock market and so forth, and people hear stocks and like GameStop, what was happening and stuff just recently.
Yeah.
I don't think our people within the region are knowledgeable enough to take the chance to take their monies out of their savings and try the stock exchange. And I think one of the things that, if I have to look back on my career from Central Bank or ECSE days, is that I think when we started it, the rules were so stringent. The average hustler who could have really gone to get the exchange started to say, hey, you have $1,000, let's take 500, let's put it in the stock exchange and see. The requirements were just too high. You had to have, I think, either $500,000 to be able to get a license, and hey, who really has $500,000 to get that license? But at the same time, I understood what the central bank was doing, wanting to make sure that
compliance.
Yes, and so forth. But I always say it's a risk, and sometimes put things in place so that if somebody messes up, then there are penalties. But you can't make the laws so rigid that you don't get players in the market. And I think we still suffer from that.
Well, when I become a thousandaire, I want to become a venture capitalist. I don't think that we have many of those minded people in these parts, because I think that if with venture capitalists in these regions, you have a chance to make money on an investment, but more so it's a civic duty to give people who are upcoming with brilliant ideas a chance for something to work. And I'm a beneficiary of such people who have taken a risk. You know, my success is not my destined success this year. My success so far has been because some people have been willing to take risks, and I want to definitely pay it forward.
But you see, for that, let me just add, because, you know, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. While venture capitalists are a good idea, it again, from a regional standpoint, it takes a little more than just venture capitalists, because while you may need the money and you have a great idea, I think the people who invested in you know you, and they know and they know your values and what you stand for. So it's a little easier to invest in you. But take John Public, who just has a great idea, right? And you don't know him, right? But the person who knows John Public might say, he not getting my money because he's ill-disciplined.
Right.
And so that part, I think we've not developed. We have to have the institutions to provide support to the other services. So you've received the money, but you need the business skills, the business skill set to be able to now move forward, so that you could now have persons who are really good at what it is that the idea was, but they also growing and they learning, right, the business skills. And that's very important when you're starting a venture.
Yes, there has to be a platform almost analogous to like Shark Tank, where people are able to come and pitch, and then you're able to provide a platform to mentor and help people and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of my thinking. I would like to see more of that in these parts. And yeah,
the OECS did one, and I think Alex Strawn.
Yes, last year.
Yeah, last
I think
year.
he came third.
He came third, and I was so happy for him. But again, we need more opportunities like that. We need more opportunities like that for those of us throughout the region.
So let's dive into the cute stuff now. You know, people know you as the dreamy lady with flowers and weddings and whatnot. And how did that start?
Dreamy?
Yes. I want to dive right in there. How did that start?
Oh boy. I call Dreamy divine intervention is what I call Dreamy. Because I started Dreamy actually when I moved to St Kitts. I was on assignment. My first assignment from Central Bank, I was sent to Anguilla. And again, coming from St Lucia, where I thought we had lovely beaches, I realized Anguilla was the bomb in terms of beaches. And I saw a couple getting married on the beach. That intrigued me. So that was my first look into my future, and I didn't know it was my future then. One of my sisters had owned a bridal store in St Lucia, so I knew a little more about weddings and so forth. But fast forward, so that would have been probably about March or April. Fast forward to July of that same year, 1999. And you know, the internet was just blossoming at that time. I got an email from this gentleman asking questions specific to St. Lucia. He wanted to come and renew his vows in St. Lucia because it was his 10-year wedding anniversary. Of course, I replied to him, giving him all the information. But at the bottom of the email, because he had written to my Hotmail address, I said, P.S., who gave you my information? And he said he had just found it off of the St. Lucia list. There were thousands of email addresses, and he decided to just pick mine. So I said, okay, no problem. But he came back with lots more questions. I answered them, and just knowing me, you know, I said at one point, would you like me to put together a package for you? Now I know nothing. I'm working at the central bank.
Wait, this started all the way since back then?
All the way back then.
So wait, Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Dreamy is same age as I've been here in St Kitts.
What?
21 years. Yeah.
So wait, CGC Elite, all of that was still
this
Dreamy.
is new. Yeah, Dreamy is.
Dreamy
yeah.
is the star. This. Oh my god.
Yeah, Dreamy's my baby.
Oh.
Yeah. And so, long story, the guy came back and he says, okay, we're ready to book your package. How do we send you the money? And I'm like panicking because I have no business. I don't do it. I mean, this was just giving information. Long story, I put together a package. I got my mom in St Lucia and some friends to put together everything. He had such a great time. He wrote me back and says he would like to do a testimonial for my next set of clients. And I thought at the time, wow. I paid all my bills, and I still had, I think I may have had like $300 left for myself. And I thought, wow. I didn't think I did. I didn't do a thing. I paid everybody. I got this person to give me a testimonial, and I made money. And at the time, I think I was having challenges just being at Central Bank and wondering if that was the right place for me. And so I got Peter Adrian's son.
I know Moses, yeah.
Moses was in college at the time into computers and stuff.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine had actually bought me a book about strikingitrich.com. Read that entire book. Got Moses, long story again. Moses designed a website for me. I paid him. Got onto the net, waited like a whole year after that one wedding, until then I read more and researched more, and they spoke about SEOs and stuff you have to do, and just a lot of things were trial and error. And I got a second wedding and a third wedding, and I remember I used to say to the clients, my schedule is really full right now, but I could speak to you between this time and that time.
You're selling success. Hustle.
So I would run home at lunchtime from ECCB.
Oh, now we know.
answer the emails, and then when I get home in the night, be super excited to turn on the computer and see if I had anything. And what really launched me was I got an email from Windjammer Barefoot Cruises. These were like yachts that came down through the islands, saying that they saw my website doing weddings in St Lucia, but they wanted to do weddings in Nevis and Antigua and St Martin.
Oh, regional now.
Regional, right. And so could I do that for them? And you know, Natalie never turns down an opportunity. So I said to them, sure, let's work with Nevis first. And I got to do Nevis. And while I was doing Nevis, because of my past work experience with Government of St. Lucia, I was their marketing specialist for the Ministry of Commerce and Trade.
Didn't know.
I traveled quite extensively throughout the region, and I made friends. So I called up my friend in Antigua, got all the information, then I did the same thing in St. Martin. And before you know it, I was servicing them in 5 destinations. Yeah, and then Dreamy just started to grow. Again, because you're new to the destination in St. Kitts, I didn't feel comfortable having an office because I was working at Central Bank.
Right, so the office had to be off island.
Off island, so the office was in St. Lucia.
Of course.
Right, in my mom's. Yes.
Hustle.
In my mom's house, my mom gave me a room. I set up again.
Wow.
One of my neighbors' daughters left school, was looking for a job. I started her part-time 2 days a week. Then we were growing 3 days a week. Until then, I had to take an entire space of my mom's house, the downstairs, and say, Mom, I really need the space because we're growing. And so I had like about 7 staff in St. Lucia.
Wow.
Doing our weddings, and then we moved to like the bigger cruise lines, giving me an opportunity. And then in 2005, it was just getting too much to handle. So it was either leave the stock exchange and go into it full time, or get a manager. And
You left.
in the end, I left.
That's how. So I was always curious. So Dreamy, it was like a dream come true.
I guess, but you know what's funny? And I mean, anybody again who's listening and you're not sure, just continue on your path, because what I knew is that I didn't want to have a 9 to 5 job. I didn't want a job where I sold stuff like my parents, because I saw the cyclical nature of business. It's down and then things are really down. So I wanted to sell my brain. That's what I wanted to sell.
But you see,
Services.
you've been able to pivot, especially now with COVID
Correct.
and everything. I want you to talk a little bit about that, because people need to know that when they see Natalie still being successful, she's it's not easy.
Oh no.
You go through those difficult moments
Oh,
where you're
yes.
questioning if you're going to make it, if you're going to make it
Oh,
through.
yes.
And then that spirit of perseverance comes. So I want you to speak a little bit about how you've been able to pivot, especially with your book and with CWEP.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So with Dreamy, and then the other thing too, in terms of starting new businesses, I try to always go through what I call complementary services. So out of Dreamy Weddings was born Dreamy Decor. Then I had also gotten involved with CGC. And out of CGC, we did Elite St Kitts, because we had clients, and then we offered again complementary services, as in concierge services. So you build on each business, you build and you build and you build. And for Dreamy, so we saw in 2020, because of COVID, the entire wedding industry collapsed
Yeah.
for me. So I had to do refunds and so forth for Dreamy Weddings.
Especially you had a big event that was supposed to be last year.
Correct.
Like,
The
that was a
group
game changer.
Yeah, the group renewal. We hoping that we could do it this year, but again, we know that there are possibilities, but we still gonna try. And so in business, you always have to be, your mind always has to be going. You could never stop. So you might see me and you might think, oh, successful Natalie and so forth, but you need to
I
continue
know.
push. You always have to push. You always have to be thinking. So last year, when the industry almost crashed, I would say, with COVID, well, our flower business is what is keeping us alive now. So Dreamy Decor, events are not really big now. So it's just really the flowers and our rentals. Our weddings businesses, nothing is there at all, at least in St Kitts. And I had many friends as well as staff in the different destinations, because Dreamy Weddings is in 13 Caribbean destinations. Wow. Who were just calling and saying, you know, when do you think this is going to be over? How long? Even with my staff, initially I said, you know, guys, I think maybe towards by August we should be back again and stuff. And then that wasn't happening. And then with the governments, not just with St. Kitts, but across the region, thinking broad-based COVID protocols. But our industry is so small, nobody was really speaking to us. And so is having a conversation with one of my planner friends, I said, you know what? It's time we get our own organization, something for us. And for me, having been in the industry for such a long time, I also felt it's my opportunity to give back. Because there are so many people who asking the same questions, and whether you're in Jamaica, Trinidad, or St Lucia or St Kitts, the questions are indeed the same. So I formed CWEP, which is Caribbean Wedding and Event Professionals, really to create a space for us for learning, for supporting each other, for growing as well. Because I have one of my photographers who's here, that's Daryl. Daryl
Right.
always comes to just always pick my brain, ask questions and so forth. And even up to today, he came by to just to chit chat. Every now and again, he'll check, and I said, do you know there's a new app called Clubhouse on Apple? And he's like, oh, somebody just told him. And I said to him, it's only on the iPhone.
Yeah, I heard about
And
it.
you need to get on board, because there are groups specific to photography and so forth. But things like that, I mean, that's what I want CWEP to do. I want CWEP to be an organization for us in the region, because too many times we have to depend on North America or just internationally to know what's going on. We also have to know that the competition is not the Caribbean. It is outside of the Caribbean.
So you have to
So we have to be able to know, how do we collaborate? We have to be able to know that E is going to go by Dreamy for his flowers no matter what. Or he's going to go by occasions for his balloons no matter what. And there are times he might not come to Dreamy, he might go somewhere else, and it's okay too. So I think from that holistic sense, I want to be able to create that community where we could not see ourselves as competitors, but to see ourselves as support. And I think too, COVID has also taught me we need to have a work-life balance. Because before, Natalie just used to be going.
Yes, I know.
And
Especially with QuickBooks.
yes.
Sorry.
And the balance, I know. But that, we've resolved that now. Oh my God, thank you, Jesus. But
Take that.
inside joke. But the balance, right? I'm not giving that up. I'm sorry. I've already said that with once COVID is gone, my nephew says, yeah, right, COVID will go yet not, because you're going to be on something else, on another mission and so forth. But really, I do enjoy the work-life balance that I have now.
Nice.
But going back to CWEP, so we've found it, and I've done it all on my own expense.
Wow.
I've decided to give the first year free to everybody, just to create the membership so that we could learn. I've also created a closed Facebook group where we would have not just Caribbean people in there, but international people. So say, for example, a planner or event person in the US is coming to do something, say in Grenada, they could come into the chat and ask a question. Are there any photographers here from Grenada? Right then somebody could respond, because these things exist now in the US or in the UK, right? But there's nothing like that for us here. So that's what I want to do with that. And then on the event side, because weddings are a subset of events. So I'm actually now working with the Minister of Health and Culture out of the Cayman to put on another webinar specific to events, and what will events actually look like going forward? Because our Caribbean people love to fete. We love a good time.
Right.
And we see in the other islands struggling with COVID, with community spread. I mean, just last night we had the issue where, an unfortunate issue. But we still have to be able to be forward thinking for when that time comes. How do we want it? Because if we don't put those things in place early, it means you're going to have like what happens in St Lucia. We have lots of people doing their own thing, private parties and stuff like that, undercover stuff, and people not understanding the spread. So I'm actually putting on a webinar with the minister, with Scott Dunn out of Jamaica. He does Jamaica Carnival and Dream weekend. In fact, he's having an event in Tampa this weekend, Super Bowl weekend. So that's going to be interesting because they're going ahead with it. And I'm sure if there are negatives having from that event, he's going to then learn and be able to again come back. That failure, if there is, he's going to learn and then be better. So CWEP is really to create that platform for all of us within the industry where we could provide that space so that we could learn, we could grow, we could share, and provide that educational soundboard for us.
I really appreciate it sounds like you're literally giving back and you're looking out for more people.
Correct. Yeah.
And everybody wins.
Everybody wins, yes.
And I want people to remember that there's a lot of value in thinking that way, where you try to incorporate, because the piece, the pie is that pie is limited, so you can't just keep competing.
No, you've got to think. I mean, I always say to people, we end up being very nationalistic. I'm not nationalistic. I'm a citizen of the world. I'm a citizen of the Caribbean. I see myself as the United States of the Caribbean. Why should it be the United States of America? Why are they different from us? Because what? I'm born in St Lucia and I live here in St Kitts. What about the guy who was born in LA and he now lives in Florida? Or he lives in Louisiana? Why can't we do the same? Why can't we have a TDC in St Lucia or a TDC in another country? Why do we limit ourselves? And so I think we need to be able, because if you really want to succeed, if you want to succeed with 40,000 people, no matter how much chicken you sell or flowers you sell, you could only achieve X amount.
Yep.
You can't.
Preach.
You can't. So we have to start thinking, seeing the Caribbean first as our space, and then move beyond the Caribbean. And the beautiful thing I've always said when I started Dreamy back in 99, the best platform, at least in my lifetime, the world has ever created is the internet. Because I saw that as the major leveling field. They've leveled the field. Because in this new app, Clubhouse, 2 nights ago, I entered a room and I was talking to persons within the US and Canada, different wedding planners. There's a black magazine called Be Collective that I've always wanted to be in, and my weddings just hadn't been featured. But because of my presence in Clubhouse, Be Collective have now asked me to host a room for them in Clubhouse. And so, the internet just keeps making our space smaller and smaller, and I think we need to take advantage of that. And then, yes, my book, I thought, hey, protocols, why not do it not just for me? Because I'm a wedding planner, I'm thinking makeup, photo, florist, whomever, as part of my entire team. It can't just be me alone, because with COVID, if my makeup person has COVID, I'm affected. If my photographer, I'm affected.
Right.
So I just did the research for COVID protocol guidelines for the most impacted and the vendors that I work with the most. I chose about 10 of them, and I did the book on that. And again, I did an ebook because that's where we are. But people have been asking for print, so it's now I now have a print version on Amazon available. But the proceeds are really not for Natalie. The proceeds
we know. We know. You don't have to. We know. Natalie.
The proceeds are to go to launch the organization and really to be able to have the organization have its own footing and platform.
On that note, can you imagine we've come to the end?
Oh wow! Okay, that's 45 minutes.
I tell you, this show goes by so quick. But before we go, we have a rapid fire session.
Oh, okay.
10 questions, and then that's it. We're done.
All
right.
Talking?
Number 1. This is the most popular designer in my closet. You gotta think.
You have to think, because my sisters purchase all my clothes to this date.
Just pick one, or let's go to number 2.
Number 2.
I love my car, but I'll love this car even more when I can afford to get it.
I think I always said I want to have a Maserati, so my next car would probably be.
Nice. This for me is what I call comfort food.
Oh, my comfort food is Cheetos.
Okay. This is what COVID did to positively impact my businesses, but we already spoke about that. All right. Next, this is my superpower.
I could think fast on my feet.
Nice. A sport I wish I could be very good at.
Oh, I love tennis.
Okay. What food don't you like? Okay, no. What is worse? Tell me, what food don't you like, by the way?
What food I don't like?
Yeah. Something that will just not make you excited to eat.
Nothing. I'm a foodie. I'm a foodie by nature.
Just one thing. I don't like onions. I want you to pick one thing. Okay, fine. I was going to ask you to choose between calling QuickBooks and being put on hold and eating that food. But anyway. Take that. All right. Number 8. I have a crush on this celebrity.
Oh, I've had a crush on who? I think maybe Denzel.
Idris Elba? Okay.
No, I love Denzel. I love Denzel.
All right. If I could have one do-over in my life, it would be this.
I don't do do-overs.
Okay, number 10.
I'm a very forward-thinking person.
Best part about being in this show is...
It's a great show, and I get to spend 45 minutes with E.
Yay! That's it. We just went over by about 3 minutes, but I'm going to end with a quote of the day. Don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great. On that note, I want you all to be kind and spread love. And until next week, we're back with more good news. Bye.
Bye.
Latin Twist is coming up next.